Namaskaram everyone. I take immense pleasure in welcoming you all for the political science webinar of today, where the long answer type questions from units 5, 6, and 8 would be discussed. And the presenter of today is Mrs. Shaitaz Begum, PGT Political Science, TSMS Dhanwada, Narayanpet District. Without taking much of your time, I would request Mrs. Shaitaz Begum, madam, to continue her session. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, madam. A very good morning to everyone. Respected Additional Director, madam, JD, madam, webinar team, viewers, and my dear students. I'm back here to conduct one more very informative and useful session, of course, in pursuit of exam special webinars. This webinar series, students, they are very important because we are going to discuss all subjects webinars. You please do watch them because we are going to discuss all the important points which you have to keep in mind for the preparation of the examination and also when you're attempting the examination in the examination hall. As Madam has introduced, Manjari Madam has introduced me. I'm Mrs. Shaitaz Begum, PGT Political Science from TSMS Dhanwada, Narayanpet District. I'm here to conduct webinar session, exam special session for intermediate first year, and I'm here to discuss the expected long answer questions from Unit 5, 6, and 8. Why Unit 7? Means Unit 7 is completely deleted for this year. 30% of the syllabus are deleted, isn't it, children? And in my previous session, I have discussed you the deleted syllabus for this academic year. So in this session, I'm going to discuss the expected long answer questions, which will be for 10 marks from Unit 5, 6, and 8. So without wasting much time, let's get started, students. Now here you can see here, these are the three important questions, expected questions from Unit 5, 6, and 8. Let me read them out aloud for you. The first question is from Unit 5. Write an essay on basic ideas of Gandhism. Second expected question is from Unit 6. Identify the safeguards of rights. And third question, define democracy and explain its features. It is from Unit 8, students. So in this chapter, we are going to discuss how we are going to compose these three long answer questions and what are the important key points, key words which you have to keep in mind when you are drafting the answers and how you have to mark the important words and how you have to allot the time. And in brief, I'm going to discuss these answers in brief. Okay, let's get started. Now, the first question is write an essay on basic ideas of Gandhism. This is from Unit 5, Political Ideologies. Now, students, we all know about the famous personality, the father of our nation, isn't it? Mahatma Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Now, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was called the father of our nation, and the word Mahatma, the Mahatma, was given to him by Rabindranath Tagore, which means the great soul, isn't it? Mahatma Gandhi ji has used non-violence as a political weapon to get us freedom from the Britishers. He has shown that non-violence will become a weapon if we use it perfectly with patience. Now, before we proceed on to the answer, key points, important points, now let us discuss the general philosophies of Gandhi ji, that is the general principles of Gandhi ji which he followed in his life and which he also preached, like Satyagraha, Swadeshi, religious ideals, ahimsa, that is non-violence, value-based politics. That means Gandhiji said that politics must not be away from morals. It should have morals. Mass movements, removing untouchability. that is not following untouchability, any form of untouchability, doctrine of trusteeship, women emancipation, participation of women in politics and all other areas, and Hindu-Muslim unity, that is religious tolerance. He taught us religious tolerance and ideal state. For him, the ideal state, he always had a dream of Ram Raj. That is an ideal state. So now let us get started. How we have to compose this answer. Write an essay on basic ideas of Gandhism. The students, I'll be discussing here key points so that you can, I have just, in the slides, you can see that I have just drawn like a, concept mapping so that you can connect the words and draft in sentence and write. It will be easy for you to remember. The first principle you can take of Gandhism is metaphysical idealism. Now, metaphysical idealism. What is this metaphysical? First, let us know what is this metaphysical. Metaphysical is a branch of philosophy. It is a branch of philosophy. Don't get confused because it is physics. It's not related to physics students. It is a branch of philosophy which examines the fundamental nature of reality. It examines the nature of reality and also help us in understanding things better. So in this, Gandhiji always used some doctrines, some values like non-violence, ethics, Vedanta, spiritual and metaphysical. In non-violence, you know what is non-violence? The literal meaning of the word non-violence is not doing any harm to anyone. No violence, not causing any harm. Not only by raising your hand, but also you should not use harsh words. So he always practiced non-violence because for Gandhiji, truth is not only a metaphysical category, but also a moral and a spiritual concept. He always followed non-violence, the path of non-violence and truth, ethics, the morals, the values which we have and which as Indians we have to bring it. The old ancient values like non-violence, following the path of truth, all these Gandhiji inculcated in him and he always preached. He always asked his followers to follow these steps. Vedanta, that is the philosophy taught by the Vedas. Vedanta, the philosophy taught by the Vedas, the most ancient scriptures of India. He always followed these things which were written in Vedas. Spiritual, something which is related to religion or religionism. That is, man, how he is close to God, how he is close to God, and as a soul, how he brings in him the closeness to God. And metaphysical. So the first idea, the first basic idea of Gandhism is metaphysical. He always believed in these things, non-violence, believed and also was a stringent follower of all these attributes. The second important point, see, so children, you have to write all these points. The first point, metaphysical idealism. Under this, what you have to write? Non-violence, ethics, Vedanta, spiritual, and metaphysical. All these 5 things, you just need to write one line about them. Don't go on dragging paras together because you should not exceed the long answer question more than, you should not exceed it 40 lines. Okay. The second important point of this basic ideas is doctrine of non-violence. Truth and non-violence. Here you can see here, Gandhiji always followed the path of truth and non-violence. The literal meaning of non-violence is not doing violence. That is not harming anyone, either by raising your hand or by using harsh words, or you should not be impolite as well. Gandhiji applied non-violence as a means and a weapon in politics. He used, all of us know that he was a stringent freedom fighter. We got independence because of Gandhiji's leadership. Gandhiji's leadership and his weapon called non-violence. He used these weapons against the Britishers and drew them away from India. Truth and fearlessness are the essential conditions of non-violence. Until unless we follow the path of truth and we are not having fear, fear should not be there. If you follow the path of truth, obviously you will not be having fear, you will become fearless. According to him, individual freedom does not mean violence. Individual freedom is reality only in the state of non-violence. Violence is not the answer for anything. It's not the solution. It's not the remedy. Just being non-violence is called being a free individual. The third important basic idea of Gandhiji, which he practiced, is doctrine of satyagraha. So Gandhiji explained satyagraha not as a philosophical doctrine but as a means to fight against the foreign rule. Which foreign rule, children? Britishers. We all know that we were under the British rule for more than 200 years. It was Gandhiji's principles which we adopted and we have accepted him as leaders, as a leader, and then we could get our freedom back from the Britishers. So he has adopted satyagraha as a means to fight against the foreign rule and to achieve social and economic justice. Truth cannot tolerate violence. Now, in this slide, we can see the principles of satyagraha. That means, as a satyagrahi, that means a person who is doing a satyagraha, what should he do? First thing is they should practice non-violence. They should practice non-violence, which is the very important attribute of a satyagrahi. Should not be violent at any step. And of course, non-violence is followed by the path of truth. That means it includes honesty. It includes honesty. Truth is always related to honesty. The truth and non-violence are the two major attributes which a satyagrahi, that's a person who is doing a satyagraha for a cause, should follow. Non-stealing, he should not steal anything and should follow chastity. That means he should observe celibacy. Celibacy means total brahmacharya. Total brahmacharya. Non-possession and at the same time as poverty. And he should earn only the earn and one has to live on his labor. Should not steal or should not take anything which has not come out of the hard work. Should earn and should live on labor, that is bread labor. Control of palate, that means the person, that satyagrahi, should eat how much eat the food which how much is necessary, should not take more, that is control of palate. Fearlessness and equal respect for all religions, that is religious tolerance. Compulsorily the
రవి అఖిల్ సార్ వెళ్ళిపోయారా
teacher is religious tolerance.
లేట్ అవుతుంది కదా 12:30 బడైపోయిందిగా
Economic strategy such as boycotts,
మాధవి మేడం ది నాకు ఫోటో తీసి పంపిస్తే ఆల్రెడీ డ్రాన్
freedom from untouchability. A person should not practice any form of untouchability.
డిఏ మళ్ళీ క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేసుకోవాలి కదా.
The next important basic idea of Gandhiji is religion and politics. Politics. Methods of satyagraha. Now, before we proceed to the fourth point, let us discuss what are the different methods of satyagraha. Civil disobedience, non-cooperation, hunger strike, and civil disobedience, non-cooperation, hunger strike, and all these are important things. Now, civil disobedience.
అయితే మరి ఆంజనేయులు సార్ కార్ తెచ్చారా?
Civil disobedience is you are showing disobedience. The person who goes or who wants to follow a path of satyagraha should show disobedience. Disobedience is a mild form of satyagraha, not obeying to the rules, not obeying to the rules, showing disobedience to the rules as a form of protest or as a form of disagreement to any of the government's policies or programs. Civil disobedience, non-cooperation movement, not cooperating with the government. It can be either mass or individual movement. Hunger strike, it's again going on fasting till the protest has been completed. Then hartal is strike, not working. So these are the different methods of satyagraha which Gandhiji has followed, and he has brought us freedom. Religion and politics. For Gandhiji, he always said that politics without morals can create a degenerated state. Gandhiji opposed the segregation of religion from politics. That doesn't mean that he wanted religion in politics. He firmly believed that religion and politics should not be segregated, because in his opinion both of them are equally essential for a well-developed nation. He never supported a state religion. That doesn't mean that he supported theocracy. He never supported a state religion. He was always a firm believer of secularism. He wants to use the religion to oppose all types of evils in the society. In fact, he was a strong believer of secularism, and he wanted to remove all types of evils from the society by bringing religion and politics. According to him, religion should not promote sectarianism. That means it should not have a different section. A new section should not develop because of religion. And he says that his quest for truth has landed him into politics, and his moral strength, what he had in him, had given him the strength, and he has remained in politics. So in politics, compulsorily religion must be there, because religion means following some basic moral principles which has to be there in politics for a welfare-oriented state. The next important basic ideas of Gandhism is ends and means. Now, what do you mean by this concept, students? Ends and means. End is result. Mean means the ways which you adopt to get the results. Gandhiji, he means that the adopted means, that is, should be noble to achieve the ends. I repeat, for Gandhiji, the means, that is the ways adopted, should be noble to achieve the ends. That means the ways to achieve the result should be honest and should be true. It should not have any unfair ways. It should not have any unfair ways to reach your targets, because end does not matter. According to Gandhiji, end does not matter, and the ways, the means which you use to achieve the end, that matters a lot. So ends and means. Gandhiji argued in favor of noble means, that is fair means, to achieve the social and political aims and objectives. Means is like a seed, the end is like a tree. As the seed, so the tree. So always the means that should be very fair. Then the sixth important basic idea of Gandhism is trusteeship. The society of Gandhian dream was like the state of Ram Raj. Gandhiji always dreamt of Ram Raj. That means welfare of all, Sarvodaya. Everyone should bloom. Everyone should have equal economic status. everyone should have equal social status, and there should not be any discrimination in the name of caste, religion, gender, or race. For this, he wanted to bring the principle of trusteeship. That is, the Gandhian principle of trusteeship is closely related to social responsibility of business. According to him, all business firms should work like a trust, the trust which shows care and concern even for the poor people. That is, all classes of people and all sections of people should progress. All assets of the firm must be held by a trust and must be used for the welfare of the social, that is society. That is society. The firm must keep only a small part of its benefit for the honorable livelihood of its owners. The remaining part of the profit must be distributed equitably to all the sections of society. That is the Gandhian principle of trusteeship, so that the profit should be distributed equally among the people. In this way, we are going to reduce the economic inequalities. So here we have ended the 6 basic principles of Gandhism. Now all these 6 basic principles, students, you have to write. For each and these 6 subheadings compulsorily you have to write, and under each subheading you have to go for explanation of 6 to 7 points. Then only surely you will get 10 out of 10 for this answer. And particularly, please keep in mind that you write the subheadings very, very clearly, neatly, and specifically. Okay, students? Now let us proceed to the next important question. Identify the safeguards of rights. Now this question is from 6th chapter, Rights and Duties. This is also very important chapter, students. I have taken a webinar session for this chapter. 2 sessions I have taken. In that I have very clearly explained all these things. Now let us briefly again go into this question, specifically into this question, that is safeguards of rights. We all know what are rights, isn't it, students? Rights are our claims. Rights are our claims which we get. And in the absence of rights, citizens cannot live a dignified and honorable life. So rights are very much essential for a citizen. Rights and duties are the 2 sides of the same coin. When one individual is talking about the right, he should also think about his duty. First, you have to complete your duty, and then you have all rights to question about your rights, isn't it? So now let us discuss what are the important safeguards of rights. There are many safeguards built into the system to prevent fraud. Laws will safeguard the rights of citizens. So what are the laws which will safeguard our rights? Let us discuss them. The first important safeguard of right is democratic rule. A country which has democratic rule will always safeguard the rights of its citizens, because democracy is that form of government in which the citizens, they choose their representatives, isn't it, students? So in this, the country will always see to it the citizens' wish, that is the wish of the people, is given more importance. So definitely in a democratic country, the citizens' rights are safeguarded. Written constitution. We all know that constitution is that important document in which all the rights, duties, and all the important principles of the government, that is administration, are discussed. And we have 2 different forms of constitution, written and unwritten. So a country or a written constitution, it clearly defines and it clearly specifies the powers and functions and the rights of the citizens very, very clearly. Part 3 of our Indian Constitution, it discusses fundamental rights of the citizens. And because our rights are very specifically mentioned, written in the Constitution, we live and we strongly ask for our rights. So written constitution is also an important safeguard for rights. Constitutional incorporation. Constitutional incorporations will prevent, that is, incorporating fundamental rights in the constitution. It will help us in strongly asking for our rights. Separation of powers. The theory of separation of powers among the different organs of the government, that will surely help in check and balances of each organ from the different organs. These organs, they work separately, and because the powers are divided, segregated, demarcated from the Constitution of India, there will not be any lapse in following or doing the duties. The next important safeguard is decentralization of powers. Now you can see here very clearly, you can understand by this. This is called centralization of power and this is decentralization of power. With this image, I have tried to explain you what is this. Centralization, all the powers are vested under one administration. Decentralization, powers are divided. When powers are divided, that is decentralized, the responsibilities and the powers are divided and it helps in the easy administration and an effective administration of the country. So individuals enjoy their rights when powers are decentralized among governmental institutions. This involves allocation of powers at various levels, that is national, provincial and local. Now we have local self-governments also. So if powers are decentralized, then definitely it will have a very effective and good governance. Sixth important safeguard of right is rule of law. Now students, you have to listen to this carefully. Rule of law, this you will get even for 2 marks question. Very short answer questions also. Compulsorily you will get the students. Rule of law. Now what is rule of law? In one word, if you have to remember this, I'll tell you, no one is above the law. If you write this, you'll get 2 marks. No one is above the law and law is equally applicable for all without any discrimination. Rule of law means everyone, all are equal before law and a person XYZ is not ruling us. We are ruled by law. That is called rule of law and all are equal before law without any discrimination. The next important factor is independent and impartial judiciary. What is judiciary, student? Judiciary is the third important organ of the government. What are the 3 important organs of the government, students? This is again one very short answer question for 2 marks. How many organs of the government are there and what are they? There are 3 organs of the government: legislature, executive and judiciary. What are the 3 organs, students? Legislature, executive and judiciary. Judiciary is the third important organ of the government. What is the function of judiciary? Judiciary dispenses justice through courts. Independent of judiciary led by Supreme Court. What is this independence of judiciary? The Indian Constitution protects the citizens from any partial judgment and this the power to give judiciary to make decisions based on the rules of the law in case of any dispute. Due to such authority, the judiciary of the country is an independent body. That means partial judgment. The judiciary should be independent to give its verdicts. It should not be pressurized by neither any person nor by any other organ of the government. It functions independently, functions on its own. It is neither under the control of executive nor under the control of legislature, so that impartial judgments can be given according to the law. The next important 3 factors which are the safeguards of rights are independent press, social and economic equalities and eternal vigilance. Independent press. What is press, children? Electronic media and print media. Print media, isn't it? Newspapers. Now, newspapers, that is, which will telecast the news, that is electronic media, newspapers, which we get the information in newspapers, print media. Now, all these agencies, they should be able to show, disseminate news and views impartially, without any fear or without showing any favor to anybody. That means the true and the correct news should reach to all the citizens. That is called independent press. Press should not be pressurized. Then only the individuals can enjoy their rights to the maximum extent. Social and economic equalities, social status. Social equality means what, children? Equality in the society. Everyone should be treated equally without showing any discrimination based on caste, religion, gender, or race. That is social status. Social and economic equalities are necessary for enjoying one's rights, and it means to ensure equal status for everyone in the society. Equal status, equal in what? Equal opportunity in jobs, in public places like club membership, and also for promotion in employment facilities. Eternal vigilance. What is this eternal vigilance? Eternal vigilance is said to be the most important safeguard of rights of individuals. Why? Because eternal vigilance means individuals, that is we as citizens, that is our foremost duty, to be very vigilant and cautious, alert about what? About the policies and the programs of the government. And as citizens, we should oppose the despotic tendencies of the government. And how should we oppose? Through the constitutional methods. Through the constitutional methods, we should oppose, not by using violent methods. Now, we have discussed economic equality. Now, let us once have a glance of what is the exact definition of economic equality. Now, we all know that the word economic means related to wealth, isn't it? Economics means the study of wealth. Equity or economic equality, when we say what it is, so economic equality is a concept, or it is the idea of fairness in economics, particularly in regard to taxation or welfare of all the people. And if we study this term economic equality more broader, we may also say that it refers to equal life chances, that is equal opportunities regardless of identity, to prove all citizens with a basic and equal minimum of income, that is equal pay to equal work, income, goods, services, or to increase funds and commitment for redistribution. So it is the duty of the government to see that economic inequalities are removed. So that was the end of the second question, students. The safeguards of rights. Now, all these important points, subheadings, you have to write, and you have to discuss each subheadings at least in 4 to 5 lines. Then you can get good marks. Now, let us discuss the third important question of this session is define democracy and explain its features. Now, this question is from Unit 8, students. Democracy. For democracy, you have many definitions given in the textbook and also in the study material by different philosophers or political scientists. Now, whichever is easy for you, whichever you can understand and remember well, you can choose those definitions. I have chosen here the definitions given by Mac Ivor and Abraham Lincoln. This is, of course, the most famous definition accepted for democracy given by Abraham Lincoln. Democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It is most common definition and also simple definition. You can also write this, or you can also go for the definition given by Mac Ivor. According to him, democracy, which is a form of government, it is a way of determining who shall rule and how. because democracy is that government through which we elect the representatives. So it is we who decide who shall rule and how they rule. If they are not doing well, if they are not doing justice to their post, that means what we the citizens do, they don't cast their vote in the next elections for a particular party and they change their decision. So democracy is a way of determining, deciding who shall rule and how they should rule. So between these two definitions, you can write any one definition, student. Now let us discuss the features of democracy. The first important feature of democracy is liberty. What is liberty, children? Liberty means being free. Being free. Democratic government, it aims at securing maximum liberty to its citizens. In a democratic form of government, maximum security, maximum freedom is given to all the citizens. It is built on the foundations of liberty and equality. Democratic form of government is built, the concept, the basic for democratic form of government is liberty and equality, freedom to all citizens and concept of equality to all citizens without any discrimination. Democracy is the only government which assures liberties to the people by incorporating them in the constitution. The second important feature of democracy is equality. Equality. In the words of Professor Seeley, democracy is a government in which everyone has share. So you can write this definition also, children, for democracy. So according to Professor Seeley, he defined democracy that it is a government in which everyone has a share because everyone has casted their vote, has given their opinion. A democratic government gives opportunities to all citizens for making them to take part in political affairs. Every citizen has a right to vote and to contest in the election. These are the two political rights for every citizen. They have the right to vote and right to contest in election. And right to equality, it is the first fundamental right of all the citizens, which is incorporated in the Constitution of India, Part 3 in the Constitution of India. And it is from Article 14 to 18. Now this is equality. Equality in what, students? Equality before law and equal protection of law. Equality, that is everyone is equal and everyone has equal protection of laws. Laws are same for all, equally applicable for all without showing any discrimination, like discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. And inequality of what? Equality of opportunity in all sorts of public employment. Abolition of untouchability. Untouchability, one of the social evils, is removed, and untouchability now, if it is practiced in any form, is a punishable offense. Removal of untouchability and abolition of titles. The third important feature of democracy is independent judiciary. Now we have discussed what is independent judiciary in the previous answer also. Like independent judiciary means the judiciary must be free. It must not have pressure neither from the legislature nor from the executive, and it should give impartial judgments. So in fact, judiciary, it acts as the custodian of people's rights. People's rights. Government of the people. Democracy is a government of the people because it is we who elect the people. So democracy is a government by ballot. You know what is ballot, isn't it? The paper on which we cast our vote and put it in the ballot box. So democracy is that form of government which is a government by ballot, not by bullet, isn't it? The next important feature of democracy is it is a rule of majority. It is a majority rule. Democracy stands for a rule of majority with adequate safeguard to minorities. Though it is a rule of majority, but it also has all the safeguards and it protects the interests of minorities. Every state has political parties, and one of the political parties which comes to power, they come to power by capturing the majority number of seats. So democracy is a rule of majority. Follows the constitution principles. A democratic form of government, it always follows constitutional principles very, very strictly. Whether the constitution, the country's constitution is written or unwritten, it has to be accepted by the people and also by the rulers. Against to violence and revolution. A democratic form of government, it does not support violence and revolutions because there is less chance in a democratic form of government for people's protest, because in democratic form of government, people's opinion, people's aspirations are taken into consideration, and that is why there are less chances of the people to protest. It is against to coercive methods. Coercive means what, children? By force. A government cannot be called democratic if it uses illegitimate coercion in the name of social welfare. That means the government should not forcibly put any sorts of acts on the people in the name of social welfare. If that is the case, it cannot be called a democratic state. Importance to human rights. A democracy, it upholds the dignity of human rights in various forms by giving different rights to the individuals. In a democratic form of government, you have right to speak, right to express, right of expression. Democracy always allows individuals the right to speak, criticize, and disagree with others constructively. Constructively, that is with an intention of having a benefit to the society. And democratic form of government is against imperialism and war. Now, what is imperialism? Imperialism is a kind of, gaining political control over other territories. That is imperialism. So democracy is always against imperialism and war. Democracy in the international sphere stands for the principle of self-determination. That is, we have a sovereignty, a sovereign rule, a self-rule, and for the regulation of interstate relations on the basis of equality, justice, and reason. So this point is very important for a democratic form of country. Now here we have discussed the 3 question or long answer questions, students, which are very, very important. So please be thorough in these questions, and you can check out, you can revisit the website and check out any doubts you have in these questions. So thank you, students, for being with me, and please stay connected in future for the future webinars. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shetad Madam, for discussing all the important LAQs from the chapters 5, 6, and 8. I'm sure the students will definitely take advantage of this and then follow all your instructions. Thank you so much.